Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, the show for IT professionals and managed service providers, where we help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. Thank you for joining us. This is the Wednesday live show. We do this most Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we are in the midst of all MSP August. And we are trying to hold true as best we can to only talk to other MSPs, other IT business owners. Give the vendors a little break. They dominate the summer, but we are here doing this. Today with me, you know him. I assume you love him. He is the tech stoic from the West Coast, Brian Weiss from iTech. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for answering the call when I put it out for everyone to join us. And thank you for the extra long email response when I asked, got anything to talk about?
I wanted to be very thorough, okay?
Yes.
And give you plenty of options.
Yes, you did. And you know what? I can pick and choose and I can ignore what I don't, or we can save it for another show.
Yeah.
We can do that. So let's do this before we get talking, because once we get started, we will get to it. I actually am going to start off with this. The NetAlly tip of the week. And I know that a lot of you, when you've seen me talk about other products and you see me say that I will probably always only be a NetAlly person, that may not be 100% true. I made a change to my go bag this week. So as many of you know, I have this. Well, you know what? We got the, let me see. Can I change there? So I have this go bag, which I usually will keep my cyber scope, my ether scope. I got a whole bunch of stuff in there. I probably will spend another show at some point going through all of that. But I made it a change where, well, you can see the reflection, but that is the LinkIQ Duo from Fluke. I chatted about this a few weeks ago, and you can kind of see it starting up there. But I am now adding this to the bag, and it is going to replace the air check. So there's the full screen when it comes up. The top row is basically your cable tester, network tester. And then at the bottom row, there's Wi-Fi. You can look at networks, channels, access points, and do all of that. And I mentioned that this is just kind of a basic tester, but it comes in real handy because it will not just do, a pinout test. The link runner and the Etherscopes will do that. It'll tell you if the cable is working. And then, of course, you can validate your DHCP server, your DNS, and all of that. But what you cannot do on those is what I can show you here is it'll validate not only the pins, but it'll validate the speed, and it'll give you the distance, and you can talk about the pairs and all of that stuff. And it gives you a nice green pass or a red fail. It does go out and give you an IP address. It'll test PoE, but then here is, I know I probably should have had screenshot pictures ready to go. Actually, let me see if I do. This is live, so we can do this. Brian, you don't have any of these testers, do you?
No, and it always fascinates me that you use NetAlly and these devices so much. And I wonder like how I've gotten away with not feeling like I need something like that. Or am I just missing something in my life that I need?
Because you probably outsource everything.
I mean, I do wonder, like, I don't know that we've run into issues at the physical layer so much I mean, definitely on the Wi-Fi side, it's intriguing because we're using heat mapping software and mobile devices or laptops for that, right? Which aren't as convenient as a device like that.
Oh, I have a video. Let me bring this up here. So there is a video where I show it plugged in and I hit auto test, and it will automatically determine if it's just testing a cable connected to a remote ID port or if it's connected to a switch, where it'll give you the switch port information and all of that stuff. It'll tell you the speed and all of that. The one downside that I didn't like is that it takes a while to run this test. This test takes almost 2 minutes to run. And if you're a cable person and you're trying to test a whole bunch of cables and stuff, well, that may seem like a lot. But Brian, the reason I have these tools is so that I don't have to wait for a cable person to know if a cable is good or if a network connection is good. And with the NetAlly stuff, I can do all of that network verification. I can test connections to servers, to the internet. I can do port tests. I can do service tests for specific ports if I want to just test, port 443 or something for a SQL server or things of that nature. And it's got a bunch of apps that I can do other stuff on there. And as you can see, the test just finished. So that was almost 2 minutes in there. So um, listen, having these tools at the ready, if you go on site, which it sounds, I mean, you probably don't, or do your techs go on site a lot?
Yeah, I mean, they're typically bringing a laptop, and it's a combination of apps on their laptop or maybe their mobile phone that they're diagnosing a network with. And I'm sure they would love to have a device like that at their disposal to make their lives easier.
All right, we'll talk later.
Yeah. I mean, how much did that thing cost is the next question.
So the LinkIQ Duo, it's not terribly expensive. Let's just pull up Amazon and you can see right there, because
Is it more than a new laptop? Well, maybe not now with the price of RAM.
I was going to say, right now they're probably about the same.
Yeah.
But I think the basic tester itself is under $2,000.
Yeah.
But the whole kit, here we go, LinkIQ Duo. Share this screen here. So there it is. So the LinkIQ Duo, which is just the device there, 2236 on the
And then with
Amazon.
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
And then with Wi-Fi, 3119. Now, what they didn't show you is, so this actually, so the last time I saw this kit, it was about $4,000. So this is the LinkIQ. That's not the original. So the one I have is the Duo, which is the newer version. So the Duo is, here we go. Here's a Duo kit. So $33.92, which is the full packet there. You've got the tester, you've got a tone generator, you've got a full set of remote ID. So if you want to test multiple ports at a time, you get the network connector, so you can just text patch cables. Not a bad little ding. But again, I do it because I don't want to wait for a cable guy. I can test everything right there, especially if it's somebody just complaining, hey, my Wi-Fi's not working. Well, those things will test Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, we're going to forego news and other things here. And let's go to the list of stuff you sent me. That 2-page email.
You can summarize it using AI.
Did you review it before you sent it? That's my
I did. Yes, I did actually read it. And I even pulled some stuff out. I was like, that doesn't need to be in there.
You pulled stuff. So even though the show, I've tried to keep vendors off for this month, your first thing is talking about a vendor, and it's a part of this vendor's offerings that I did not realize they offered. Pax8 is winding down its business application services. So first of all, to the listeners that either are not Pax8 members or like me are Pax8 members, don't know what this is. What is that?
So yeah, Pax8, they bought a company called Bamboom Cloud a while ago that was focused around Dynamics primarily, and Dynamics Business Central, which is a counterpart or a replacement, I should say, for like QuickBooks. They also had Sales Professional, which is like the CRM for Dynamics, and their business applications team, from what I understand, was under their professional services wing. So if you think of Pax8 and the different things they do, they have academy and coaching, right, and peer groups. And then they have their marketplace, which a lot of people know Pax8 for. And then they have a professional services wing as well, which my understanding is this business applications team was under. Yeah. And so, I mean, basically we were using them to migrate from QuickBooks to Business Central. And we went live June 1st. And we got a 30-day notice, which they're allowed to do based on terms of our agreement, that they're winding down the business apps. And I guess, it's unfolding still. So there is no like final verdict, that I've come to, and I understand that these things happen. So I'm not like upset or trying to badmouth Pax8 at all. It's just new news that's affecting me and my roadmap and my ability to operate as a company, where I'm going to have to pivot, which maybe that's the bigger discussion here, is what happens when we have a vendor where their roadmap changes unexpectedly, and how do we react to that, right? My guess, like I've seen with most vendors, is it was probably a financial decision when it comes down to it. Is it maybe it didn't fit their wheelhouse of products or services at the end of the day, or it wasn't financially sound for them to continue doing. Maybe they'll give me some more information on that as I talk with them next week. They're very reactive, right, and even to my reach outs, and scheduled a meeting with me right away. And they're doing everything they can to help me as much as possible in this last 30 days to try to set me up for success, where, I'm not going to, obviously I won't have them anymore. So, what does that look like for me? You know what I mean? At the end of the day.
So when I looked this up, it looked to be primarily based around the Microsoft advanced platform, I guess, when you talk about Dynamics 365, Business Central, Sales, and as well as the Microsoft Power Platform. I imagine that a big chunk of us MSPs aren't using those features. So when you get to a point where you want to deal with really diving into a full 365 tenant platform, helping business customers apply that stuff, or if you're a larger MSP, it almost feels like not enough people were using this. Does
that's a decent guess. Okay. It's hard to say without knowing, the back end of things. I will say that, when you think about business applications in the Microsoft world, their cloud versions it's Dynamics primarily, so databases that you're dealing with in Dynamics. So it's outside of the standard, what I would call like modern workplace, maybe, is what Microsoft calls it, where it's OneDrive, SharePoint, Enter ID, Intune, Defender, Microsoft Purview. That's really in the wheelhouse of the average MSP, where they're helping their clients manage all the data that lives in the modern workplace, email, calendar, contacts, right? Files in OneDrive and SharePoint, user and device management, much in an MSP's wheelhouse. Now, the minute you think of business applications in the Microsoft world, you're stepping into the Dynamics kind of database modules and all the different flavors they have. You're making use of things like Power Apps and the Power Platform a lot more than you might use it just with the modern workplace. And so it gets into areas where I wonder if the average small business isn't prime to take on those products, because you are kind of stepping into more enterprise grade business applications at that part.
Right.
At that point, it's not an off the shelf SaaS product like I would consider QuickBooks.
Right. So how much were you using this from Pax8? Because I know you spent what, the last 2 to 3 years working on your own internal thing.
So it's an interesting thing, and I know if there's people out there that know me, they know I've been on this Dynamics kick for a while. And one of the reasons I've been on this Dynamics kick is because I've been heavily invested with MSP channel vendors in the past that have just veered in weird directions, right? Or made moves that, we can, I'm not going to name names, but, we all can imagine, the things that have happened in the past where, one vendor buys out another vendor, or they merge, or they acquire, or they grow too fast. And what they once were and what once made them so attractive to work with changes drastically, and a lot of times negatively affects my own MSP. So what I decided is, I was like, well, shoot, if I'm sitting here struggling to build my own roadmap for my MSP, with the fact I've got such huge vendor sprawl with 20 different vendors, let's call it, that all have their own roadmaps. And the minute enough of their roadmaps change and affect me negatively enough, now I got to redo my roadmap. I was like, I may as well just go all in Microsoft at the end of the day, right? Like, I can't even keep up with Microsoft's roadmap. They're enterprise focused. Yeah, they're not perfect for everything, but I can do the majority and kind of take a Microsoft first approach. And so I got this idea of, well, I'm going to run my primary line of business apps with Microsoft too, which are Dynamics. Now, the problem with that, because they're not off the shelf SaaS products, is they do require dev work, right? Development work. And ideally you've got a dev team, that's supporting it for you, and helping you with migrating data over, and then supporting it moving forward with any tweaks and changes. What I love about it is it's in my tenant, so I own it at the end of the day, right? The fact Pax8 is no longer going to support me moving forward doesn't mean I lose everything that's in my tenant all of a sudden, right? I just have to find someone else to support it moving forward and do the dev work. So the average MSP, including me, even though I used to have a dev department back in the day when we did web apps, that portion I sold off back in 2018. I just didn't want to have a dev department again internally. So naturally you outsource that. So if you think about what my journeys look like, it went from, maybe depending on 5 different SaaS apps to make up what I wish a PSA did, to moving over to Dynamics, a single ERP app that can do everything that a PSA should do. But now I have this extra cost of and reliance on a third-party company to act as my dev and support team behind the product. It lives in my tenant. I own it at the end of the day, but I have a test, dev, and prod environment that is managed by a dev team, and they handle all the updates and support it, right? And so that's the part that Pax8 was for Business Central for me.
Okay.
Is
All
this
right.
idea is they helped me migrate from QuickBooks over to Business Central, which they did a phenomenal job. Like, their team over there from Bamboo Cloud originally, like, is amazing. And then the idea is they have a support plan moving forward where they support it moving forward. And I'm just in a position now where I need to find someone new to act as that.
Have I ever told you the name Kristen Pittman? company called CyLutions?
Maybe not. I can't remember.
All right. So Kristen, I met, I don't know, 5 years ago, and her company, that's all she does is Dynamics and advanced Microsoft stuff. So we'll
Mhm.
hook up and get you guys connected. Now, here's the thing. Her company costs a lot of money. So
That
it won't,
yeah,
you
and
won't be
that's
paying tax 8 money. You'll be, but she might be able to at least point you in the right direction or get
yeah.
you, down the right path or find somebody to do what you want going forward.
The world of biz apps is challenging, and I can understand why Pax8 maybe decided to terminate that arm of services. I mean, it's really an area that needs a lot of focus around understanding the fixed outcomes that people need. And part of this pilot I was doing with Pax8 is helping them identify what kind of fixed outcomes might an MSP need when it comes to Business Central. And so that was one of the things I was actually really happy to help them with and be part of that journey. But if you can't determine some sort of level of fixed outcome, you can't then easily package your services without losing money at the end of the day. And so now you're in a situation where you're having to just bill hourly. And then that's how you get really expensive. So I can understand someone in the Dynamics world of, we don't know what you need at the end of the day. We're going to be expensive because we're just going to bill you hourly. When it comes to Business Central, I wonder sometimes if a CPA firm might not be the best to ultimately sell that, because they know very well what you need at the end of the day from an accounting perspective, right? I, in my mind, Pax8 with their academy coaching and their academy and their coaching, and the fact that they help train us really around service leadership index and how to manage our books that way and do proper reporting, like they were geared up to be in a good position for this. And so I am bummed, because I think they were in a good position, but I think they're looking at that line of business compared to their other lines of business and what their future looks like. And everything else is probably moving a lot faster and more profitable than this thing that's kind of a loss leader at the end of the day, would be my
I
guess.
mean, the AI train is rolling fast, and that's what Pax8 has hung their hat on and stuff. But nonetheless, we'll see if we
No.
can't connect you to Kristen, at least have a conversation. Kristen, if you're listening, or if somebody that knows Kristen can give her a little ping and let us know we shouted her out, that'll help. So let me ask you this, because another topic that came up, and this actually kind of rolls into a client discussion. Well, I shouldn't say discussion, an email that I got about a particular thing, but I did a show, it was probably 3 shows ago, and we titled it Don't Be the Single Point of Failure.
Mm.
And now that was from the MSP perspective, and it's more based on, whether it's a solo tech, trying to support customers, what happens, if the solo tech goes away, or if you have an employee that is all of your knowledge. Dawn and I talked about this a couple of months ago, where they had one of their, lead service people, just leave out of the blue. And it wasn't that he took a bunch of IP with him, but it just was a big hole to fill, because there was a lot that they relied on, and it was tied to the person and not to the process and stuff. So I see you already thinking. So let you say what you're thinking first before I go further.
Well, I mean, single points of failure that's part of our job to call out for our clients, and hopefully we aren't one of those.
Right.
I do know there's an aspect to look at it from a people perspective, as well as like a tooling perspective. Which is when I think of our job in IT is like, are we identifying that for our clients? The simplest example out there is clients heavily relying on their internet connection. They're 100% cloud-based. Have we talked to them about putting in a backup internet connection? Or have we talked to them about what happens when that internet goes down? Are they okay with just coming to a screeching halt and not operating? Or, those are the things we try to think ahead about. But I mean, there's lots of different directions we could go with that. I'm not
Right.
sure which one you were thinking about.
Well, let me ask you this, so that you were talking about your situation with Pax8 not doing the Dynamics help anymore and you looking for that. From a vendor perspective, we rely on our vendors a lot, and we talk about standardizing our stack, simplifying our stack. And there are the vendors out there where we are bundling a lot of services with a single vendor. You know, what happens when a vendor, either something happens, they go offline, they get ransomed, they get breached, or they decide, yeah, we're done. You know, how quickly do you think most MSPs can pivot in that situation?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going all in Microsoft, so it's like,
I mean, Microsoft's not going away, but they certainly could handcuff you. I mean, the margins are thin. They change their pricing all the time. And I have a customer, or not a customer, I have a consultant friend who was trying to refer me a M365 migration. They're on hosted exchange. But the tech that is with them now hates Microsoft so much, he wants them to go to something else. But their main application, they have to be Microsoft.
I mean, the reason why I'm okay with a Microsoft, if you want to call it a single point of failure, with the fact we're going all in with our MSP, even with Dynamics. I mean, deep down inside, Microsoft's so siloed, it's going to be very rare that all systems go down across the board. It's going to be individual systems, right? Email maybe, or maybe Dynamics, who knows? But they're fairly siloed, right? I think what I like about the idea that we're using Microsoft with our clients, and we actually bill their licensing on a separate invoice to our clients, because we don't want their cost to inflate our cost and have the client think, wow, iTech's really expensive. It's like, no, here's what you pay to Microsoft, regardless if you're using us or not, right? But it is kind of, I mean, Microsoft or Google. I mean, what are you going to do? You got to pick Microsoft or Google. It's one of the others. And with your clients, I mean, you're not going to self-host stuff for them, because that's just another nightmare. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if there's a big enough outage, the best thing we could do is figure out, well, could we have planned better to where if there's an outage, they can at least still do business somehow? Like, is that an operational
There's
thing?
Products out there that will keep their mail up and running. The one I can think of that I did when I had Exchange servers, MX Save. And that basically was a redundancy mail server provider where it would, you could do it for all the emails or just a critical email, or just store email. So that way it wouldn't get bounced or anything like that. There are, other platforms out there that'll do that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you're not pointing your MX records directly to Microsoft, I know Mail Protector offers that too. So those are the things to consider and talk with your clients about. At the end of the day, I wonder, with a vendor like Microsoft, it's not a putting your arm around the client and saying, we're in this together and we're going to get through this with you. We're here every step of the way. And we feel the pain just as much as you feel it. Now, think of an MSP channel vendor. Can you really say we're in this together with your client if they have a big enough outage or something happens with that vendor that disrupts your business and upsets your clients? We don't have control over what our vendors do at the end of the day. Back to the stoicism and tech stoic, right? What do we truly have control of? It's what, and how do we focus on that? So I wonder, like, that was kind of getting back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I've had enough bad experiences with vendors in the past that have made rash changes to their roadmap that have affected me negatively, where I decided, because Microsoft isn't the easiest vendor to work with either. I mean, they're enterprise focused. And so when it comes to small businesses like us, they don't have everything in mind, like all of our needs in mind. And that's part of the reason MSP channel vendors tend to take off and gain a lot of market share, is they are initially having small businesses in mind, right?
Well, so they start out that way. They start out saying, "Oh, we're with you 100%. We are focused on you." But we know that as that money starts to roll in, and as the private equity funds start to say, "Hey, we need a return on this. We got to cut some corners. We got to, hey, let's go after the bigger businesses. Hey, we got a minimum. You've got to have 500 endpoints to join with us." I mean, those things happen, and it's just a joy. Um, you made a point about being in the journey with the customer. I think one of the things is our customers don't see us that way, though. I mean, I had a call today. This is the call I got was they, let me try to describe this in the best way possible. So they are a recording firm for law firms. So anytime there's a depot or some sort of meeting, they're the ones that will, record the meeting, do the transcript, and it's official. But one of the things that they're having trouble with is if they do Zoom meetings, people are showing up with Otter or Firefly or whatever to record their own meetings and get their own transcriptions. So they're like, we got to stop that. So they went into the Zoom panel and turned off all the AI features. They turned off recording stuff. Well, what happened is it prevented their own recorders from recording locally to the computer. And it was an issue because if you do it to the cloud, you can't pin a particular person to the screen because they do the videos as well. It was a whole mix up. Well, they called me and I'm like, I don't know Zoom. I mean, I use Zoom, but I don't know Zoom. And they were screaming like, we got to find another product. We got to do all this. And it's like, they come to us. It's not like we're on this journey with them. It's that they're like, you're the conductor on the train that's getting us to where we want to go. And we're going to expect you to know every single answer to every single product out there. It was a bad example, but that was the one that's on my mind today.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard there is they expect us to know the answer to everything, but don't always include us in the journey that they're on.
Right.
So we're not even clued in necessarily on what they're even doing. And then last minute, when something goes wrong, we should have the answer.
Yeah.
And even with AI is a perfect example. Like our clients just expect us to know everything about AI. And it's like, oh, yeah, I came from the future. I forgot to tell you, I can time travel and I can learn about it in the future. So I could come back to the past in the present here, which we're all in the same present. I don't have the ability to learn anything faster than you do. So, I mean, the AI, back to the journey thing, believe it or not, it's like I tell our clients, we're in this journey with you together. The one thing we can tell them is that we went from a fairly deterministic outcome in technology landscape where we set up a server for you. We can expect it's going to work this way. We migrate you to the Microsoft Modern Workplace. We can expect it's going to work this way. When we set up AI for you, it's not as deterministic. It's more probabilistic. It's probably going to work this way. So let's find out. And by the way, it might cost you a lot of money if you use it the wrong way too, right?
Well, it's trying to get people to think back, and of course we can't. But when the automobile was first built, it wasn't perfect. It didn't always work. It blew up at times. I mean, it just didn't function the way that it does now after 140 years or whatever. AI is, in the way that it's being used now, it's really just in its infancy. And it's going to take time to mature and to get to the point where we can start to predict and expect things to act and react in a certain way. That's the difference now, is that people think that, because it's 2026, everything is perfect. But yet their cell phone doesn't work 100% of the time, does it? I can't help it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, AI is the buzzword now that everyone's using to try to get clicks and sell more products and act like that they've upgraded or improved whatever service or product offering that they have. And um, I feel like we're a lot of times we're sometimes even skipping over this idea of automation that should really come first before we even talk about AI. Or sometimes people talk about using AI, and when you look under the hood and understand what they used AI for, really all they did was set up automation.
Right.
Or they used AI to help code program automation, right? Yeah, what's your feeling with your clients in AI? Are they coming to you at all, or
So the short version is no,
do you
because
think they're just using it on their own without
yeah,
you, or
oh
what do
yeah,
you feel like? Yeah,
they're just, it's too easy for them to just go sign up for any of the platforms
yeah.
and start to figure stuff out. So they don't come to me anyway until the best example I can give is a law firm that, one of their attorneys was using AI and they're now getting slapped by judges and opposing counsel because they're not checking to see that AI is correct and the certain way that things are worded or case law that is not 100% accurate where they're referring to now they're coming to be saying, hey, we've got to fix this, how can we do it? And it's like, okay, well, now we've got to go back, tell me what you're trying to do, and let's see what is out there that already does it before we start bringing in AI to try to, magically make everything work. So it's
I mean, why do we think that is? That they're just, you know, I mean, I've got some ideas. I don't know what your ideas are on why clients just feel like they don't need to involve IT when it comes
because
to
they're being
AI.
told that. They are being told that. And the younger the kids are, the more they are familiar with stuff, and to the point where, well, IT is just, hey, was it my last show where we talked about don't be the department of no,
Yeah.
um, where we are more restrictive to them than than we are at allowing them to, really grow and expand their business and stuff because we're too busy trying to stop ransomware. We're too busy trying to stop viruses, all of that stuff. It's a weird little thing. So all of a sudden we must have hit a nerve. Somebody just Steve Copeland can't count. Isn't it three of my favorite people? Unless he's counting himself and all of that. Carrie Holzman, watching the show. We are like a fireman. They call us when they have a fire and they need you right now and know how to put the fire out. It's reactive instead of proactive. Yeah, absolutely. Um, but to refine my answer, why are they doing it? Well, because they can.
No.
I mean,
I
15
think
years ago, they couldn't just go and, buy a, advanced firewall and install it. They couldn't just, buy a computer and connect it to the network on their own. They needed us. We are now at a point in time where software applications in the cloud don't need IT.
well, yeah. So the simplest answer, I agree 100%. It's because they can. I wonder if there's not some underlying factors there that could have made it harder. At the end of the day, I'd say I always go back to those old Apple commercials where they trained a whole generation of people that there's an app for that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's an app for that. Just go out and get it. Never in the small print was it like, please consult IT before diving into an app. Right. And maybe, tongue in cheek, right? I mean, that's a mobile device, very consumer driven, but then maybe
No,
that's,
but you just made a good point. All
yeah,
those health commercials out there, all those pills and stuff, don't take without consulting your doctor.
yeah.
Tech commercials should be like that. Don't do without consulting your IT professional.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that'll happen because you're starting to see AI companies get sued.
Yeah.
and it's the liabilities going all the way up to even the line of business apps. There's hospitals getting sued right now because the HIPAA release forms that they had their patients historically sign never said anything about using AI with the patient data. And these hospitals have been using AI with patient data. Now and guess what? It wasn't the patients that came after the hospital. It's lawyers that got smart and realized, wait a second, we've got a big lawsuit here. Let's do a class action, right? And so you wonder, like, well, where does the liability stand? I wonder, like, without going too much into depth, if it's not going to eventually be these EHR or EMR line of business apps, right? The electronic medical record companies that are building AI into their products, and then a small doctor's office or a big hospital, whoever might be using it, is using AI. They're enabled to use AI via the software manufacturer who's building it into their product, and then they get sued because of something AI does that ultimately. So maybe there's this idea now that it's built in. We're not going to let you use AI with this patient unless we see this HIPAA consent form signed that says they can use AI with their data, right? And so there's a liability factor that maybe we'll see that change. But
so insurance companies have done this with, I've got insurance defense attorneys, and some of the big insurance companies that are their clients have actually come out with what they call security requirements. And the latest security requirements now are addressing AI, and they literally are saying you cannot put this into generative AI unless we approve. And they actually are listing out what they can and cannot do. They have not yet listed which platforms they were approving, but in the legal space, companies like LexisNexis, Thomas Reuters, they are building AI platforms designed for the attorneys to use. And I'm assuming that those will be approved first.
Yeah.
And that you're not going to be able to just, use whatever AI tool you want. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other half of getting back to why are they using AI without us is, if you think about when AI first became commercially viable, it was a consumer product.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sign up for a free account, let alone your own personal one that you pay 20 or 30 bucks a month for. And so the fact that anyone can sign up for it, whether it's paid or free, and then they're using it, this is what I typically see with our clients, because it's very reactive for us right now. We're trying to be more proactive, but we're finding that employees, it's kind of a bottom up instead of a top down approach. Employees are using AI for their personal lives, and they're realizing, I can use this at work. And then they're taking an account they signed up with personal email on, and then they're using it at work with company data. And we're detecting that, right? Or we're blocking it, and they're asking us to unblock it because we're the the no police, right?
Department of No.
And so it is a situation we treat delicately, and the way we flip it around is we're like, we're not slapping their hand and saying, getting mad at them. And it's almost like we're telling the client, hey, we went to you like 2 years ago asking you if you wanted to implement AI in your organization. We wanted to try to do a top-down approach to this. You said you weren't interested. Now what we're faced with is this bottom-up approach that's happening in your organization. You have employees, without you realizing it, using AI. We don't want to berate them or get them in trouble. These are your champions. These are the people we wish we would have talked to 1 year or 2 years ago when we were talking about trying to use AI. So let's make them your champions, but let's get them set up with proper AI licensing that's under your company and that protects your company data.
Right.
And typically that's, we're obviously we're Microsoft first, so we're trying to go Copilot first naturally. But go ahead, we gotta.
Steve threw a big, huge stat in here. Roughly 80 to 95% of enterprise AI initiatives fail to achieve their intended business value. Depending on the definition, the widely cited 95% statistics refer specifically to Gen AI pilots that did not show measurable P&L impact, not necessarily systems that failed technically or never entered production. Yeah, I think that's going to be another thing is people started using AI as a simple search tool, but then decided that, oh, now with Claude Code and all of these things out there, we can now make AI do this for me instead of me doing it, write my emails, create my presentations, write my, you know, write my subpoena, for me and stuff like that. And then he writes here also in Florida. Yes, my home. Yes, I'm dealing with all of this. A defense expert's entire chat GPT history was subpoenaed and the judge granted it. Yeah, that is something we do have to worry about because I can say that. So Allstate, I'll just say this. Allstate is one of the big insurers here in Florida that a lot of attorneys work with. Allstate, as far as I can tell, has probably the biggest set of security requirements where they are asking, well, they're not asking, they're saying you need to log all of uh, the areas that our data is in, how the data is used, how the data is transmitted, if it's getting loaded into AI. And that's a battle that I'm having with one of my law firms is we're not set up to log all that stuff. And I know that we have some vendors in our space that are starting to allow us to do that, especially with the browser based add-ins. So that's going to be something to where we're going to have to monitor that because it's going to have to be maintained.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the chat history is a concern because it's something that becomes forgotten about, and how long is it getting retained for, and how could that come back to bite someone later? But, when I think of security versus compliance, at the end of the day, I happen to know a very large company that has compliance policies that state they delete all history after 90 days, everything. They don't even keep emails that are longer than 90 days old. And so if you have a policy set up where you just don't keep data that's older and you follow that policy, hopefully,
Right.
if someone comes knocking on your door and says, hey, we need data from X amount of days ago, and you're like, sorry, our policy is we delete that. We don't even keep that history. So sorry,
Yeah, but then
I'm talking communication specific data, right?
right. But
Yeah.
it'll conflict. Like in my case, if the insurance company says you will maintain these, the law firm has to do it. And then the law firm, Florida Bar, says all this other stuff. But the problem is going to be if we don't know they're using it, how are we responsible for maintaining it? That sort of a thing.
Well, now you're talking shadow IT.
Yeah. So that's
So
gonna
we
be
can't be responsible for it at the end of the day. It was undiscovered for us in the first place,
yeah.
right?
All right, Brian, let me give you an opportunity. I had asked if you had any questions for
Yeah.
me based on because we chat outside of the podcast, so people know we hang out from time to time and stuff. And so I was going to ask you if you had any questions that popped up, whether it's from my business or from prior podcasts or anything. Is there any one question that pops out right now that you want an answer to?
I mean, we talked about the single point of failure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I am interested to know. I mean, you just did like over 20 vendor spotlights, like just talking vendor after vendor.
So okay. So there
Like,
were 17 pitch it vendor
okay.
spotlight, but then I think it was 16 PAX 8, and there were probably another 10 sprinkled in between that. So yeah, a ton.
So, I mean, and I've been to a couple conferences, this year. This year, I've tried to not go to too many, but there's definitely an insurgence of new vendors in the space, right? And they seem to all have something to do with AI. It's a little overwhelming, um, I mean, and I'm struggling to find like things an MSP can't live without, when it comes down to it, when you see all these new vendors popping up? Is it just FOMO, fear of missing out? I mean, what was your overall opinion as you interviewed all of these vendors? Was there anything that stuck out as, oh, this is something that you feel like MSPs need? Or
So the short answer is, did anything stand out? There were a few that kind of stood out as, oh, this might be something to look at. However, some of them are not going to like this. I don't jump on new bandwagons. I just don't. And part of it is because, one, I like my stack and I don't want to risk it just to try something new. I don't have FOMO, I guess is the way it is. There are a lot of products out there that look really good, but I want to see where they are. There's a lot of products that, if I were to just use the Pitch It series alone, I've covered Pitch It now for 4 years. I probably can't name you more than 2 or 3 of the vendors that are still around from the very first Pitch It that I covered. And it may be that they're still around, but they're low profile now, or, they may have gone away, but I don't go back and look either. I want to know that a vendor is going to, be in for the long haul. However, with AI, just like we said with everything else, things are moving so fast that, yeah, there's going to be a period of time where I'm going to be like, man, I probably should have done that, but I'm still going to wait.
maybe that's the tricky part this go around with all these new vendors, is it does feel like things are moving a lot faster than they have in the past.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them too, there's an opportunity. It's like the gold rush in my eyes. It's like, hey, everybody's making their money on AI. Let's go make our money. And at some point, not that the gold will run out, but all the available gold will be spread out enough to where new people aren't going to get as much as the early ones did. So people that are coming into the space, it's the ones that build AI properly and the ones that can help us get as much out of it as we can to keep our businesses working, to keep our clients' businesses working rather than replace us. Those are the ones I think that are going to really, be here for the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of these new AI vendors, a lot of them are bolt-on products to legacy MSP channel products to fix clunkiness, or, shortcomings of software that was developed decades ago and it's just, old and decrepit and, has a lot of issues. But even then, you can only do so much. What does the API give you access to at the end of the day? So I think the ones that intrigue me the most aren't the ones that are trying to get me to buy another tool so that my existing tool works better when my existing tool maybe just needs to be replaced at the end of the day. I wonder what it looks like to help us truly understand what it's like to be customer zero, when it comes to AI, and how we're ultimately going to help our clients with AI. Because I don't know that buying more tools so that I can have sure, there's the scaling aspect, right? I need less engineers and I can do more work with less engineers. But at the end of the day, what's to stop me from being commoditized and look just like every other MSP? And that's the goal for some MSPs out there. They want to be commoditized so they can easily be purchased and swallowed up into a bigger conglomerate. But at the end of the day, if that's your goal, are you really putting your clients first? You're probably focused more on quantity than quality at that point.
It'll be interesting. It will be interesting. Well, so I'm actually probably going to be dropping 2 vendors at the end of the year just because I've got tools that overlap.
Yeah.
And it's
We're there with you. We have overlapping tools.
Yeah. And it's just a matter of, do I really need to spend this money that this tool is doing the same thing as this tool? Yeah, there's maybe 10% that I would lose out on, but there's other tools out there. So it'll be interesting. I will definitely be having some stack oriented discussions later this year. I just had to turn away 2 calls that, one of them tried to get an early jump by saying, yeah, I know you talked with, one of my colleagues earlier, and I just wanted to touch base. I know you said, fourth quarter, but we're coming close. So are you ready to talk? I'm like, no, it's not fourth quarter yet. Don't try to sneak in on me. And then I will say this about Intermedia. So that's who I'm using for my voice over IP. And I'm using them as a advisor. I'm reselling it. I'm not doing any white label. That's not something I want to do right now. I went to them from Freedom Voice, which got bought by GoDaddy, and GoDaddy hit the bed with them. And I started getting emails from a different account rep saying, hey, I'm your new point of contact, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have a point of contact. Intermedia is starting to do some of the stuff that other vendors in the channel are doing, where under certain models, they're going behind your back to your customers to try to upsell them. And they're claiming that it's to help you build your portfolio. They're still your client, but we just want to offer them these additional services that maybe you haven't, discussed with them about. And I had to tell this person, no, I've already discussed this with them. So I went back to my regular rep and I said, what's going on there? And it took her a couple of days, but she said, okay, I took care of it. You won't be getting any more emails on any of your accounts, that sort of stuff. But it was like so annoying that they're like, oh, they're your customers, but we're gonna help you sell.
Yeah, because they know your customer better than you, right?
Yeah. All that tells me is you're looking at ways to get more money out of clients, and you think that we're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think of the Microsoft model. I mean, I've had Microsoft call my clients before, and because they're not seeing them, adopt a certain license type or whatever, and
oh, I see you're this type of customer. Can we do a license audit and make sure you're,
oh yeah, I've dealt with the license audits too. Those are interesting.
All right, my friend, we are coming up to the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and end off the show. Thank you very much for hopping on. We'll probably do another 2 or 3 before the end of the year.
Sure. I mean, I gave you 2 pages of info that we have barely touched any of it. So
yeah. But these are good discussions. They are fantastic. Before we end off the show, folks, I just want to say real quickly, thank you to our sponsors that we've got. OneStream from BVoIP. You're already living in Microsoft Teams. OneStream lets you make and receive calls there as well. They have a full UCAS, call queues, recording, AI voicemail. There's AI again, all inside Teams. And if you are looking for secure remote access without opening any ports, without any firewall exposure, and MFA built in, check out TrueGrid. They are simple to deploy and safe by default. And Just had another comment. Is that our friend there? Ecto Frank? Is that our
Yes.
friend? With the peace? Is that a peace sign? Peace, baby. So, all right. TechCon Unplugged, folks. There are still tickets for that. Go to techconunplugged.com. Use my code TCU Marvin, and you will get a significant discount. How significant? Somebody called me and said, this can't be the right price. I want to pay something. That's how significant the discount is. So if you're looking to go to TechCon Unplugged in Chicago, September 17th through the 19th, go check it out. TCU Marvin is your discount code. And that is going to do it for this episode. On my behalf of my good friend here, Brian from iTech Solutions, been in business 20 years. Going strong, my man.
Yeah.
So that'll do it, folks. We'll be back with more from All MSP August, and we will be back next week. See you. Yep, I do have a guest next week. So we'll be here, same time, same channel. We'll talk to you guys later. And until next time, holla.